B-Bad and Brandon.
Brandon, my boy here.
How are you?
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, and we're recording.
I'm well. Yeah.
And it's a Friday. No, is it Friday for you?
Friday, yes.
Yes.
What?
It's Friday midday for me.
Yeah, right. Okay, so just for everyone who is listening, you're in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
No, I'm actually in Saudi Arabia in a town called Thul, which is quite close to Jeddah and Mecca.
Oh, wow. Cool.
That's kind of cool. How long have you been over that way?
Well, I moved here in 2017 in April or May, I think. So just a tad over 4 years I've been here.
I just realised I missed out about the actual important question to start the podcast.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, sorry. So we actually have one little bit of a plan for the podcast here, Shannon. And after that, it's just chaos. But what we should do is find out who you are. So we will ask you one question, and it is 21 sounds, who you are and what do you do?
Okay, so my name is Shannon Klein, and I am a research scientist working at a university in Saudi Arabia. So I'm from Australia. I did my PhD, and then shortly after I finished that, I moved here. And I do mostly marine science, climate change science, and a little bit of biomedical science.
Holy,
Just a little bit of that too.
Yeah, wow. I thought you just kept going with all that. What prompted the?
Yeah, it's more of the recent development.
Yeah, geez. So what's your PhD in, sorry?
So my PhD was in ecophysiology and climate change. So basically what that means is I'm trying to understand how marine species, so like corals or like jellyfish, like box jellyfish, how they're going to respond to climate change. So we can project, how they're going to cope, maybe where they'll move in the future. So we can try and, combat as much of the impacts as we can, if possible.
I'm so glad you explained that, because we were actually just discussing before the podcast that we weren't sure if you knew that you are so much more intelligent than us two put together.
But now it's confirmed.
Yeah.
Now you do know.
No, that's not true. It's not true. It's just persistence. I'm very stubborn.
That is an incredible path of study, and even super excited to see where you are now. But how do you start, or is there a bit of passion for the ocean and climate change and everything like that, or is that something you just fell into, so to speak? Or
Yeah, it's a question I get asked a lot. I think it's really hard to say, because I think it just happens in your life, and so it's hard to pinpoint, exactly when it happened. But when I was really little, like I was 3 or 4, the family would just play in rock pools, and I'd be there like feeding the anemones and looking at these tiny little shells. I wasn't the kid looking at the big fish. I was the kid that was picking up like the tiny little shells and feeding the anemones. And I was just fascinated by it, I guess. And then I loved science when I was in school and maths. So I just kind of went that way, and I thought, okay, so I did a Bachelor of Science. And then I decided to change my major to marine science and like chemistry. And then I just fell into this project after my graduate degree, which was about box jellyfish, the ones that can in theory kill you in North Queensland. And so I did some experiments on them, and I just got really into it. So I went into that,
And
so I decided to do a PhD.
Damn. And those box jellyfish,
Yeah, I mean they're pretty.
They're pretty deadly.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty bad. There's 2 different types actually. So there's the bigger ones called chirodropids, and they're the big ones with like the tentacles that can go 20 meters long. And they're pretty bad. I mean, they can induce like a heart attack within a few minutes if you're a bit older. But if you're a bit younger, then you might be all right. And then the irukandji ones, which are the little ones that you can hardly see, that's they induce like a different type of set of symptoms, and it's more of like a long, painful experience. But most people survive that one. So yeah, they're not very nice. They're very sweet though.
Yep.
So,
not by one of those, but many jellyfish, yes.
did you just say they're sweet?
Yeah, they're very cute. They're only tiny. They're adorable.
How does climate change affect the jellyfish? What sort of happens there?
It's a complicated question, actually. So some scientists think that climate change will actually help jellyfish to like proliferate or kind of take over. But I'm kind of in another kind of team of people that think that that's actually not the case. And I think it depends what species you're talking about, because jellyfish, there's lots of different species and lots of different types. But there's no evidence to suggest that they'll increase in numbers at the moment. So there's been a recent analysis that's done that, and they are kind of increasing in some parts of the world, but others they're declining. So, but you know, people think that they're super robust, you know, that they're just going to survive anything. Like people have this kind of take on them that they're annoying and they sting people and they're just going to do really well under climate change. But I don't actually think that's the case. And actually a lot of experiments suggest the opposite, that they're going to be impacted like a lot of other species as well.
And then I imagine, you know, every species plays their part in an ecosystem. If there was more of them or less of them, there's going to be some sort of snowball effect that happens to the greater population of the ocean. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, 10, 20 years ago thought that jellyfish didn't really play much of a role in ecosystems, and they were kind of like a dead end. But yeah, no, it turns out they're quite important for like fish larvae. So a lot of the fish that you eat kind of depend on jellyfish, because like when they're little tiny babies, they swim around jellyfish and jellyfish kind of protect them, which is quite a little sweet relationship they have. So yeah, I think that they're a lot more important than people think. Yeah,
so people, I guess, they just underrate them because you don't know a lot about them. You just see them.
They're just a little pain.
Yeah, they just hurt them.
How did you end up in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I actually ended up here by accident. So I hope my supervisor's not watching this. So basically what happened is I finished my PhD, I was towards the end, and I thought, oh shoot, I better look for a job now. I can't really do any more study. And so I kind of had a discussion with my supervisor at the time, and she went through all of these people that like were kind of around the world and maybe who I could potentially approach for a job. And she mentioned this one person, and he's a very famous scientist, probably one of the best in the world in this field and other fields. And I thought, you know what, I'm so terrified of being rejected. You know what I mean? Like it's scary, like putting yourself 100%. Out there and then just getting rejected for a job. And I thought, you know, and I thought, oh, I'll just go for the best guy in the world, right? And I'll just get that rejection over and done with, and then then it won't matter, you know, it's fine.
Work on the other ones.
So I did that. So I wrote this guy an email. Right. Yeah. So I wrote this guy an email and I was like, hey, like, give me a job. Like, I'm great. I can give you this. Like, I was super confident. Right. And anyway, so he wrote back in 15 minutes and said, yeah, I know who you are. Here's a job. Here's a contract. And I went, where is this guy? Like, where am I going?
You didn't even know where he was.
It's amazing that this guy's giving me a job. Well, yeah, the last time that I knew where he was in Western Australia. So, and I was like, I know he's not there anymore, but I don't know where he is. Anyway, so I looked it up in Saudi Arabia, and I thought, all right. I didn't tell my family for like a month because I was like, I don't know, they're not gonna let me go, you know.
Yeah, right. That's
Yes,
insane.
that's how I ended up here, kind of.
And working with, like you said, one of the best people in the field in the world.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like, I mean, there's lots of amazing people, you know, but you know, in terms of science statistics and things, he's definitely one of like the top 100 scientists in the world across all different fields, and he's pretty incredible.
I absolutely love that because it's just a testament to like you never know what you can do until you actually go for it. And you know, you spoke about the anxiety around reaching out to the person at the top, but you just did it, and look where you are now. That is just one of the best life lessons anyone can learn, and you just took a risk, and now you're there. That's awesome.
It's incredible.
I do have a question.
Yeah, I was so convinced. Yeah, go for it.
And I don't know if this will trigger you, so I apologize in advance, but how do you react when there's still a group of people that don't believe in climate change? How do you manage that?
Fair enough. Well, actually, there's a lot of people in my own family, including my dad, actually, that doesn't believe in climate change. So it's quite hard when you do that as a job.
Yeah.
But I always kind of use the argument that, you know, I don't like to get into an argument with people because I don't like to tell them you're wrong. You know, they've had their own life experiences and things like that. And they don't necessarily understand how to interpret, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of years of data like people that are trained to do that. But I always say, you know, would you agree that maybe there's even a small chance that it's possible that climate change is real? Like, okay, you don't think it is, but would you admit that maybe there's a 1 or 2% chance that this is happening and that it is a problem? And, you know, 99% of people will say, yeah, okay, like I would agree, like maybe there's a 1 or 2% chance. And then, you know, you take them through like, okay, well, if we don't do anything and that 1 or 2% chance, it turns out to be true, we're in real trouble if we don't take action. But if we take action and climate change isn't real, it's not a huge deal. Maybe we make the world a little bit of a better place. Maybe we spend some money. There's not really any negatives to trying to make the world a better place. So I always talk about it as if, you know, I admit, okay, maybe, you know, science basically says climate change is fact. We have that much evidence now that we're, you know, statistically, we're virtually certain that this is fact. But, you know, if you can get people into just looking at, if it's true, this is the outcome. If it's not true, this is the outcome. And so a lot of the times I can, you know, make them kind of understand that, not make them understand, but kind of see that there's a possibility that it's real, and that if we don't take action, you know, if we take action and it's not real, it's not really a huge loss. But if we don't take action and it is real, we're going to end up in a real mess. So I mean, but I try not to argue with people. I think, you know, people have their own life experiences, and, you know, so it's difficult, but it doesn't matter. You just got to keep spreading knowledge, right?
Yeah. That could be part of it as well. Like the more education you can put out to the world about the topic for people to see, and then, you know, one of their shortcomings is perhaps they just don't know. So if you don't know, you don't know, right?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So,
but if you're putting out some good stuff for people to see and read, they can start seeing what you're seeing, I guess, and start coming across to the team, which would be good.
Yeah, I think it's a big issue because a lot of, you know, people that are experts on this topic, they're not really necessarily good at communicating with the public, you know, because they talk all of this, you know, maybe a scientific language, and it just, you know, you're like, what on earth does that mean? So I think, you know, there used to be a really big gap between scientists and people that knew what was going on in the public. But I think we're doing a really good job at trying to link that to get that communication clearer. But, you know, I always say to people, like, you trust doctors and you trust, you know, you go to the pharmacy and you trust that you're getting the right drug for whatever's wrong with you, and you rely on science for, your phone and all of these things. But then when it comes to something about the planet, suddenly it's all crap. So it's an interesting.
That's a really good point.
That is a fucking great argument.
If anyone's arguing against it, please rewind that and go back to it.
Yeah, like that was, but was there a time where you maybe a bit younger, you would just be really like, you would argue?
Yeah. And trust me, like my uncle will tell you this, like many of family dinners have turned into arguments when I was younger because I felt like people were stupid. and it was I was arrogant, I thought I knew better, and and that's just it's not true. And when you get down to it, people just have their own kind of thoughts, and they're entitled to their thoughts and base have opinions based on what they know, so fighting against it and being aggressive and arguing with people is not going to get us anywhere.
100%.
But I'm always happy to sit down with anybody. Yeah, and that's it. And I just, I'm always happy to sit down with anyone and go through like the information and maybe some of the counter arguments that people commonly use, like, oh, the earth was like this, so many thousands of years ago. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. This is the difference. This is why this is concerning, and this is why this isn't. So, but getting a bit older and a bit wiser. And also, you don't want to come across like a crazy, like hippie type. Not that hippies are bad, but you don't want to come across as this like crazy activist that like doesn't eat and smells grass for their nutrients or something. I don't know.
That's a good one.
That's what I haven't heard before. I love it.
How do you reckon, you said the gap's closing between, academia, scientists trying to tell the people that this is happening and just people not understanding their language. How do we close that gap to get more awareness and information out there?
Well, I think we're doing, like, I don't know if you've seen some of the latest things that have come out on Netflix. Like there's a couple of really good shows about just like corals. Someone like David Attenborough, has done some amazing work communicating science and making it entertaining and making it mainstream. And it's just, more stuff like that, and talking about it with people, talking about it with your mates. Like that's the important thing. And I think, one of the key things that I always tell people is like, go out there, go for a snorkel, go out and go for a bushwalk, get back in touch with nature and get interested in it if you care, and then you find if more people are out there and they're enjoying, the corals and the beautiful reefs that we have, or they're just going for a surf, like they tend to then be more interested in how to take care of it. But I think I think that's a way of improving it. But I think that one of the problems at the moment is that people are super negative, right? So like anytime you hear on the news and climate change scientists, they come on and they say everything's going to be a disaster. Climate change is going to kill everything. I don't think that's helping, because people are just go, okay, well, if it's already too late, it's too late, right? What can I do as an individual? And they think there's nothing that they can do. So I think scientists need to flip it, and I think we need to give messages of hope and how we can make a difference and how we can achieve reversing negative impacts and how to stop them in the future, and creating hope and achievement and being proud of those achievements as a community, as a country. And I think, that's the way forward. And I think a lot of people, a lot of scientists are starting to realize that message is a lot better received, and a lot more views on their research when it's positive, and stuff like that.
So I like the bit where you said finding a way to get more people outside and getting them in the water, in the ocean, in the bush, in the tracks, because that would also, I think, give them a bit more understanding of what the human impact is on those spaces. If you went, say, snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef and then you come across some pretty destroyed coral, and then maybe you did a snorkel the day before, you see some good coral, you're like, well, there's a reason why this one's no good, because we're not looking after our little oceans here.
100%. I think this also goes back to, like, if you get them outdoors, they can appreciate what our planet is, and they can see it for themselves and like touch it themselves, and then automatically go, well, we need to preserve this. This is beautiful. This is amazing. I want more of this.
I think it makes it more personal too. Like you
There's
develop a relationship. And it becomes a memory and an experience that you share with, you know, your partner, your friends, your family. And then, you know, you think about it, you have kids and you go, and the Great Barrier Reef's not really any good anymore in 10 years. It's gone. Like it's ruined. It's really sad. And especially when you think of it from an economic standpoint, I mean, I think it's something like between $7 and $8 billion of our economy is because of the Great Barrier Reef. So even if you don't care much for it, like terms of like economy for our country, it's also an economic issue as well.
Oh wow! I didn't think of that.
No, I don't think people like I've never thought of that, but it just gets lost on them because it's not just going to affect the coral itself. It's going to have greater. People forget like it's one of the great, you know, wonders of the world. Like that's massive. That's one of our calling cards.
Yeah, we shouldn't mess with that.
Yeah, if we don't have that, as like Australia as a country, we're fucked. Like, what else do we have to offer? Shrimp on a barbie? That was pretty funny.
I hear that a lot over here.
How many times? So obviously, being in the marine world, diving would be a passion or a hobby of yours?
So it's probably more of a hobby.
Yep.
For me. I do a lot of my work is a lot more in the lab, doing like more manipulative type work. So I spend a lot of time, you know, in aquariums and in like laboratory type environments. And I'll go out and collect certain species or certain animals from time to time. But yeah, diving's probably more of a hobby than it is for work so much at the moment.
You said you get to go out and collect them sometimes. That's kind of cool. So is that like actually physically grabbing a couple of jellyfish and bring them into the lab and have a look at them?
Yeah. So, you know, we'll go out to like a reef and we'll grab some corals for some experiments, or we'll go out to like a seagrass meadow and grab some jellyfish that lay on the bottom, and they kind of behave similarly to corals. So we're quite interested in how they differ, because the jellyfish are quite tolerant of certain stresses, but the corals aren't. So it's like, okay, why? What's the difference? So, you know, just stuff like that. And yeah, so we just go out and just yank them out and try to treat them as nice as possible. But most of the time we'll end up, you know, not putting them back. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, you don't want to take too many of them. And it is coral and jellyfish, are they kind of similar?
Yeah, they're really similar.
What?
So yeah, in their taxonomic classification. Well, you think of like, if you think about a coral, it's made up of all of these tiny little animals called polyps. So they're like a colonial species. So if you look at a coral really closely, they're these tiny little things called polyps. And if you make those polyps bigger and you turn them this way, they look like a jellyfish.
No way.
I'm actually like blown away. I didn't realize coral was an animal, like a bunch of animals.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Brandon's mind.
This is my mind is blown like this. Johnny knows this, but obviously we've just met you, but I'm not really exposed to any sort of like I've never been
Ocean.
What is it deep? What do you do?
Diving.
I've never been diving. Like that's just blowing my fucking mind.
It's pretty cool.
That is fucking legit. Well,
what other similarities do they have? Coral and jellyfish.
I'm done. That is ridiculous.
They both form like a symbiosis with algae. Yep. So the reason that corals are really colorful is because they have algae inside their tissues that give them color, food, give them, you know, oxygen and things like that. So they have like you know how we have like bacteria in our intestines that help us, you know, live a healthy life. So corals and jellyfish can form a symbiosis with a similar type of beneficial symbiosis with algae. So like little tiny microscopic plant that gives them all their beautiful colors. That's why corals are super, beautiful and make our reefs look gorgeous.
I just want to say, like, we have nothing to do with the marine world, and we're both strength coaches here. And we started this podcast doing talking to a lot of people within our industry. I love being able to talk to people at the top of their field in their industry, because I literally get so excited, and just even learning that little thing about coral, like, that was incredible. You're so intelligent.
No.
So do you get to keep any jellyfish for yourself at home?
Can you imagine the aquarium she'd be running?
No.
Oh.
I mean, so during the pandemic, we had our labs shut down. So our whole university went into like what they called hibernation, because there was no one there to look after it. We were all locked down in our houses here in Saudi for a few months. So all of our labs went into hibernation. So I bought a jellyfish culture home and put it in one of the rooms in the house and grew jellyfish for 3 or 4 months in the house. Not very scientific, but it did the job.
Yeah, give you something to do. How does a jellyfish start off as a culture? What's a culture?
This is what I mean. This is fucking exciting.
Oh, sorry. Let me explain. If I say something, sometimes I
No. As we said
um,
before, we realized before the podcast that you are well more intelligent than both of us.
So we're very excited.
And that's both of us put together.
Stop saying that. It's not true.
No, like, we lift weight and we can do that, but we lift good.
So they start as a culture, you would say, the jellyfish.
I like lifting weights too.
We'll talk about that next.
Yeah. As well.
Yeah. Now that you've opened that can of worms, we'll definitely go there. But let's talk about these jellyfish cultures.
Okay. So jellyfish start off as these little tiny, like, eggs, I guess, similar to the way that we do.
Yeah.
And those little eggs will then settle on like a blade of seagrass, so like a plant or like a rock or something, and then they form into what's called a polyp, which is like a baby jellyfish. And basically it's like it has like a body like this that attaches, and then it has tentacles that come out like this, and it can eat food like this. And then there'll be like some type of metamorphosis. So how a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, a jellyfish polyp will turn into a little tiny jellyfish, and then it'll start pulsing away, and then it'll go and be a jellyfish and grow bigger.
Wow.
And so we actually are able to grow that polyp stage, the baby stage, and kind of keep it in that stage, and we can actually make them multiply in the lab, and then we just keep them kind of growing and growing, so that when we do experiments, we can just kind of pick stuff from there and manipulate them in different ways and do experiments on them. So I had a system where I had a lot of these polyps kind of that we keep in the lab. We call this a culture. And so I brought that culture home and grew it at home, because I didn't want to lose it, because it took me a while to get it established, and it takes a while for them to. So I didn't want to lose it. So I just brought it home and kept feeding it and doing the things that it needed.
Jellyfish?
Do you know, what's it called? Sea monkeys when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Did you guys play with sea monkeys?
Yeah.
Yeah, we feed them sea monkeys.
Oh, wow. Just also quickly, does the university know you took some jellyfish cultures home, or do I need to edit that out of the podcast?
I think it's fine.
Yes, cool. Just making sure.
We're all good. Now, jellyfish.
No, it's fine. Like, yeah, my supervisor knows.
We're all good.
So I think it's fine.
Jellyfish don't have a brain either, do they?
Yeah. No, they don't. They have like what's called a nerve net.
Yeah, and that drives them around. They don't need a brain. That's pretty cool.
What?
Yeah, I know you would.
Yeah, and they They have eyes and yeah, they have eyes too, so they can see where the light is. Not very good eyes. They just know where there's light and dark.
And that kind of drives the direction they want to travel.
I'm actually
we're not actually sure. Yeah.
How do they operate without a brain? Sorry.
There's lots of animals that operate without a brain.
Oh, get fucked. Really?
I guess. Yeah.
I am so sheltered and I've been living under a rock.
Corals, anemones, none of them have brains.
Wow.
I need to research this more or just ask you, like, how does that work? I'm sorry. I'm mind blown.
What do you
know? I don't even know. I can't even answer that. They have nerves. The nerves respond to things, but there's no kind of central nervous kind of brain that exists. So I guess we evolved from this, right? So we evolved from jellyfish in early evolution. So it kind of went jellyfish, and then it went like corals, and then we just kept kind of evolving. And then, you know, you get to like fish and things, and that's when and crustaceans like crabs and things, that's when you get the development of a brain.
Yep. Wow.
You said?
Yeah, you used to be a jellyfish.
I didn't used to be a jellyfish.
Your great-grandfather.
You personally.
Yeah. So we started as a jellyfish as a human species.
Yeah, I mean, so we're called metazoans. That's like the word. So it's kind of like the kind of what you would recognize as an animal today is called a metazoan. And we evolved from early metazoans. And an example of an early metazoan is a jellyfish.
I don't, like, honestly, I've learned more on this podcast than I ever did in my 12 years of school. I'm literally mind blown. This is fucking insane.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when you think about it.
It really is cool.
Yeah, so like so a day for you is you're just mucking around and playing with jellyfish all day and corals and poking and prodding them and seeing what they do.
I mean, I work a little bit on jellyfish. So 50% of my time at the moment is doing some work with some biomedical research, so working with like human cells and that type of thing. And then the other 50% of my time is working on, you know, climate change and impacts on like corals, you know, jellyfish, and doing like bigger like data analyses projects for that type of thing.
I just, I'm not gonna lie, I am just on my phone and I just added you as a friend on Facebook so I can ask you all my jellyfish questions now. I'm blown away by this.
I'm down. That sounds.
I'm curious, obviously, touched a little bit on that climate change. Like, how nasty do you think a path is we're on at the moment? Or are we seeing a correction at least to get away from that nasty path that the planet could be headed towards?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, but probably the most recent news is that about a month ago, we had the worst day of emissions that we've ever had. So in terms of carbon dioxide emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, that's basically trapping heat in our atmosphere, which is the cause of climate change. We had our worst day. So humans produced the most carbon dioxide in a day, and that was only a month ago.
Did anything
but in saying that, I think sorry?
Did anything happen to like make it the worst day? Like, was there just an increase in emissions because something happened globally, or did every factory just turn on their fucking thing at the same time? Or
I don't know. I mean, it's like cars. It's everything we do. It's, you know, the amount of meat that we eat, the number of cows that we have that are producing things like carbon dioxide and methane, these types of gases. But it's really our use of combustion energy, right? So it's like petrol, coal, these types of things that are the main cause. So don't panic about your stakes just yet. I think we're okay on the stakes, but it's just the cars and, you know, basically the way that we're producing energy, particularly in Australia, like we just rely on combustion. I can't even say the word now. Oh my God. Combustion fuel. You know, using.
That's an interesting one you said. So Australia doesn't do too well on the energy front over here.
No, we not to get. I try not to talk about politics too much, but we keep investing in the old style energy, and we're not really too far forward. You know, there's some countries in Europe that are doing some amazing things, like New Zealand's pledged to go to zero emissions in the next few decades. But yeah, I mean, our government keeps on investing in normal energy, which is not great for us as a country.
And that's something like that is obviously, if there's more countries like New Zealand committing to zero emissions, that's got to kind of drive things in the right direction, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, in the last, one of the things that a lot of people say is, oh, you know, Australia, we've got such a small population. You know, we have a big country, but we have a pretty small population when it comes down to it. And we account for less than 1% of global emissions. So what does it matter if we do it? And well, if every country that was less than 1% said that, it's more than half. Like, it doesn't matter how small we are.
Yeah.
So if every country like New Zealand, Australia, you know, even the little guys, you know, if we all say the same thing, that's half of the emissions, you know. So even if we're having a very small impact globally, and, you know, people that argue against it say, oh, well, Australia's not going to make any difference to whether we do it or not. But it is really important that we do. Everyone, like, there's, you know, tiny little coastal communities, you know, out in the Pacific on a random island, and they're doing amazing jobs to reduce their emissions. And, you know, and there's, we really just need to do it. Like Saudi Arabia is doing a great job, like, with their pledges. And I mean, they produce a lot of oil, right? But they're doing a lot of investment into renewable energy futures. And so there's been a lot of change in a lot of countries. So hopefully our homeland will follow on soon.
The poor thing, I think, when I just think about it, if Australia's like not doing anything about it, and if they don't do it, then their neighbour sees, obviously New Zealand got the shit together, but another neighbour sees that Australia's not doing it, so they're like, oh, well, we won't do it because they're not doing it. And then all of a sudden, oh, mate's not going to do it because we're not doing it. Then you've got a bunch not doing it just because we didn't do it.
I just love how you refer to another country as old mate.
Yeah.
That was fucking brilliant. That was the most Aussie thing I've ever heard.
Old mate over the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he got it sorted. New Zealand worked it out. We need to get our shit together.
I fucking love that. Just a quick question, because I was just interested. What coffee are you drinking there?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I have a sneaky sip.
It's all right.
I'm having an espresso machine.
Espresso pods.
Run the good stuff.
What number pod is it? Like, you know, the intensity
Pretty
level?
good, huh?
What
Look
level?
at that foam.
Damn. Is it strong one? Intensity one?
It's the Lungo, so it's like a 7.
A 7. Okay.
You're only running a 7.
So I'd say it's like medium to strong.
Yeah, I mean, like I've got one at the moment, and
13s.
I'm running a 13 Napoli one. Like, come on.
Oh yeah.
You got to run a higher.
Yeah, I had one of those this morning.
Oh, okay. So you run the
Yeah,
tough. Yeah, good. As long as you're having the strong ones, because you got to start off really intense, start the day right, then you can wean down.
Yeah, I am a bit of a coffee addict, so I allow myself a strong one to wake up in the morning, and then I try and kind of so I've got in my little rack, I've got morning, midday, and then afternoon, and it goes down in intensity.
What a system! What a system!
Incredible. I do like that.
Hey, that's brilliant.
I know, science, right? Got to have a system.
Smart. Now, I will say you're definitely our first guest from Saudi Arabia. What's it like over that side of the world?
Hot
Hot.
is probably the first one.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's, I think yesterday or the day before we had 48-degree day here.
Holy fuck.
That's winter or summer?
Summer.
I don't know. I don't know how it lines up.
It's summer. Yeah, it's summer. So yeah, it's very sandy.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess like the biggest difference like here to home is the culture, right?
Yep.
So you kind of, I have to cover my shoulders and kind of my elbows and legs pretty much in public all the time.
Yep.
So you can't, I'm not going to go walk around in short shorts like I would at home.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I live in like a compound, so it's
Yep.
it's pretty chill. It's good, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's really multicultural where I live.
cool.
So, you know, meet different people every day. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep. And being part of the university there, I imagine there's people from all over the world working out of that place.
Yeah, we have, I couldn't even, I used to know the number of nationalities we had here, but I haven't checked recently. But yeah, a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
A lot
and
of
do you get the
people from all
opportunity
over
to
the
travel
world.
and stuff, being in the Middle East over that way? Obviously pre-COVID.
Yeah, normally I travel a lot. Yeah, pre-COVID I traveled a lot. I think the year before COVID, I think I only spent maybe 2 months straight here.
Oh wow.
So I was just traveling, you know, sometimes because I mean you're really close to Dubai. You can go anywhere from Dubai. So you know, I can just go to like Lebanon for a long weekend, or I can go to Egypt for a long weekend and see the pyramids, and so that's pretty cool.
We can go to Nisa.
And then I travel for work as well a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, that was my next question. I just said, look, does your role, did that get to take you a few places around the world as well?
Yeah, yeah. I've been to some pretty cool places. Been to Puerto Rico, Japan. Been to Spain for work. I can't even tell you. I'd have to try and think. But yeah, I've been to some pretty cool places for work.
I'm in the wrong industry. What did I do with my 12 years of schooling?
We didn't go to the next school.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot. That's why she's a real intelligent one. That's right.
Now, something you touched on a little bit before was like, platforms like Netflix and I guess YouTube and all those other things with documentaries and stuff. Do you ever see any or come across any that you're like, oh no, what have they done? That's not putting out the right message for us, or any you don't agree with?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, but I think there's always someone that they're trying to do good, and then they'll say something that a bunch of scientists disagree with, and then a bunch of scientists get annoyed and they start tweeting, and scientists are quite vicious on Twitter. So if you follow them, they fight. It's quite fun. It's like nerds fighting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's vicious.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, but I think there's only like a few kind of documentaries that I think have done more harm than good. So I think it's more about,
Would you name the
you know,
ones
because
that you think
scientists
have
are
done more
super
harm than good?
particular. So someone, pardon?
Would you name the ones you think have done more harm than good?
Nah. But I mean, I'll tell you, like, there's a few like Netflix series that talk about like veganism and being vegetarian and how eating meat and certain kind of milk and all of that, and how that impacts climate change. And I think, you know, they're super dramatic, and most of the time they're being super negative, and that's not entirely true. So there's a few of those ones that I really didn't like. But you know, most of the marine ones, I've like anything that's to do with the ocean, like huge fan of David Attenborough. I've never disagreed with a thing that man said. So
You ever met him?
yeah. No, I almost did once.
way.
But then he didn't end up coming, so I was really sad. So no, I haven't.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it definitely having nothing to do with the ocean, but it is in our wheelhouse and lane. You did say you do enjoy training barbells or some sort of lifting. You touched on. What do you do? Or done?
Yeah, so I
CrossFit?
don't really do it much anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to be really into CrossFit for like, oh gosh, like 5 years, I think, throughout like my whole PhD. And
Yep.
previous to that, I did it forever. I used to compete,
Oh, really?
do things
Fuck
like
yeah, you
that.
did?
So that was just super fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
Mostly
like,
competed as a team though.
Yep. Oh, you did team ones.
see, I had a very awful opinion of CrossFit for a long time. Please don't hate me. But, and I've said this before
I
on
know.
that show,
That's cool.
It's still fun to pick on it though.
100%. It definitely is keeping me in
Fair.
business. But our sport, like we're obviously powerlifting coaches, like the strength world owes a gratitude of debt towards CrossFit for making barbell sports so popular.
100%. I agree. Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah. And I think, at the time when I was doing CrossFit, there were a lot of like gyms that just have like some random coach that really couldn't teach people properly. And they were just doing super dangerous lifts. Like their form was terrible. So I think there was quite a lot of, because there was this whole big CrossFit movement at the time. So I think there was a lot of people that kind of were doing things that weren't great, and it was causing some pretty bad impressions of CrossFit. But I think I belong to a really great gym. My coach used to be like, he used to do Olympic kind of standard weightlifting, and he was really successful, so I knew that I had like a good coach. So I loved it. I just felt like I could do anything. They're like, climb that rope to the roof. I'm like, all right, let's do it. It was
Where
fun.
are you from in
It was so
Australia?
much fun. I was born in Brisbane, but from the Gold Coast, moved to the Gold Coast when I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, shit, yeah. Growing up on the GC, fuck yeah.
Would you go back to CrossFit again?
On the GC? Yeah, definitely. I loved it.
Well, don't rule out powerlifting as well.
Yeah, no, I loved it.
Oh, now that we'll become friends on
Sorry.
Facebook, I'll send you some links to.
Some powerlifting.
We'll send you some powerlifting.
Is there a gym culture in Saudi Arabia over there?
I'm sure there is.
Yep.
But when I first moved here, I was like madly looking for CrossFit gyms, and there were none. And I think I found one, but it was for males only.
Yep.
So I was a bit bummed about that.
Yep.
And so when I kind of moved here, I remember going to like the female gym, and I just like, there was no free weights, and it was just machines. And and then so I went to like a mixed gym, which was like for males and females. So I got excited, and then I went there, and then like the area where they had the free weights was just like way like dangerously close to machines and other people. Like there just wasn't enough space, and so it was just, and the weights were like not the nice weights. I don't know, there's probably names for them, but they had like the little metal ones, and I don't like that. I'm a weight snob. I want the colored ones, the big ones.
The calibrated.
You want the good ones.
So
You got the bumper plates.
yes, thank you.
We got the.
Yeah, I want the ones that you can drop.
Yeah, you want the bumper plates for sure.
Yeah, I like the ones that you can drop.
Yeah.
That's badass.
So yeah, and so I just kind of gave up on it. So I just do cardio now when I have time. So I just run and burpee and sit up when I have time. Kind of boring.
What I'm gonna do is I will send you a couple of links to watch. Just let me know what you think. Just let it digest.
Westworld.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll just start you off slow, and we'll build you up. It's fine.
To a fully fledged powerlifter.
And then
Did I just get an online coach?
You did.
You got two.
Yeah, you got. There is no option. But before we wrap up, we have 10 of the most important questions of your life that you'll ever be asked.
Yeah.
Now, these are 10 questions that Johnny himself has written.
Mhm.
They are rapid fire.
Mhm.
So first thing that comes to your mind, you just
Okay.
spit out. There is no pressure, but I want you to feel
Oh.
pressure.
There's a bit of pressure.
There's so much pressure.
Are you ready?
All right, let's go.
Question number 1. Would you rather throw away love or money?
Money.
What are you watching on Netflix right now?
The Irregulars.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah, what is that? Just real quick.
It's like a spin-off of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, no, I've heard
And
about this. Yes, I wanted to
And
watch
it's got
it.
like, yeah, and it's got like some magic to it. I only just started watching it, so I don't even know what it's like. But so I haven't got a recommendation here. I'm just watching it.
Okay, cool.
What is the strangest thing in your fridge?
Dog food.
Dog food. That's okay. What was your favorite toy growing up?
Microscope.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
When do you feel the most in control?
Sleeping.
That's a great one.
How do you rate your cooking?
When I cook, like a 7.
7 out of 10.
I don't cook much.
You're going to write a song. What are you going to call it?
Jellyfish.
That's the fucking best.
If you could change your name, what would it be?
I don't know. I never thought about that.
Good
question.
I honestly have no idea.
Okay.
No idea. Can I
What do
say
you
no
think-
idea?
No, correct. Correct answer. That was correct. What do you think of social media?
I personally don't love it.
Excellent. What is your favorite T-shirt that you own, other than the UFOs that you've got there, which is incredible? Because they're pink.
My favorite T-shirt is Paddington Bear with like a surfboard and a those full brim hat, like a bucket hat, and he's going for a surf. Yeah, it's my favorite. I actually took it off because I was like, that's not very professional. Because I was wearing it, Dave. It's probably my favorite shirt.
Says 2 guys on the couch with a
Yeah.
and
I've got
piece of plastic.
I've got a cast on. I'm running some flower shorts. We got thongs on. Like I get it. Like we're running a very professional operation here.
Well, I traded in for spaceship, so.
Yeah, we really appreciate that because it's actually pink and that's Johnny's favorite color.
Absolutely. It's the only color.
Yeah, pink and purple are my favorite colors too.
Can't get around it.
That's it.
Well, that was the 10 questions.
That's it. We're done.
Oh
We
wow!
did it.
Sorry, I forgot about
We're
that.
fucking jellyfish.
How'd I do?
You crushed it.
Well, we'll let the audience to decide.
We'll go and do some further googling.
If
look into more about.
if
jellyfish.
anyone thinks that Shannon could have done better, please reach out. But we want to just thank you very much for your time today. Obviously, it's your lunchtime over there, so we really appreciate it and thank you for coming on. How can people find out more information about what you do? Where can they find you?
Do you have a thing?
Yeah, so you can just probably just Google Shannon Klein research, and there should be a couple of like different pages come up. So the university page, and then Google Scholar will have some of the publications and things that I've done. But yeah, so just Google it.
She'll probably have to be our most intelligent guest on.
By far.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the.
It's really great. Just like,
handle.
and I just want to throw this out there. It's awesome because our guests before you, like this one just trumps his so much.
Yeah, way better. So great. I'm still loving that.
He's gonna watch this. That's mean. Don't be mean.
No, that's fine because he trolls me all the time. So I'm gonna just throw this out there. Fuck you, Gwang. This is great.
Sweet. Thanks very much, Shannon.
Mate, you enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, yeah, Dave. Hey,
Dave.
yeah, you
Right.
enjoy the rest of
Thank
your
you.
day. The future is great, just so you know that.
Yeah,
So
future
great.
is good. Few hours
The
left.
future, a few hours, ahead of time.
Friday night.
We're in the future. It's great. Bit cold. Pack a jumper.
You are in the future. Good to know.
Yeah. You enjoy your day. We will definitely touch base soon. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
See
Bye.
you.
Have a good day.
Bye.